Good morning and greetings from Northumberland. It's a bright and cold, almost a slightly frosty morning here, but a beautiful day. And we move now into Passion Week. And the Gospel today brings us to one of those marvellous stories that Jesus brings to us by his dealings with someone who is vulnerable and in difficulty. If you read in John chapter 8, verses 1 to 11, which is the gospel reading for today, you find the story of the woman, as it says in the scriptures, taken in adultery, who was brought to Jesus. And brought to Jesus with the question, well, the law tells us to stone this woman. What do you say? So we've got all sorts of things going on here. And really high up on the list of what's going on is a sense of wanting to trap Jesus, because I think those who come to him suspect that he will not want this woman to be stoned, because all that they've discovered of Jesus through his preaching so far leads them to assume that he will not be in the camp that wants to stone her. If we remember, go back to the Old Testament, what I want is mercy and not sacrifice. So here we have this woman, and there's no sort of bones being made about the fact of what has happened, although of course it's very interesting that it takes two to commit adultery and only she is brought to in front of the crowd. I think that's something about the the attitude of men, the attitude of a crowd. And we still see this in violence against women in our own day. So that this story has topical resonances for us, and it's important for us. But Jesus tries to encourage people to look into themselves. He doodles on the ground. Sometimes people say, I wonder what he wrote, and I don't think it really matters whether he wrote anything or whether he was just making patterns. He was trying to create a situation in which people began to think. And then he says those memorable words, the person who is without sin has the right to cast the first stone. And slowly and gradually, even this crowd which is full of hatred, this crowd which is full of bloodlust, begins to evaporate and go away. And Jesus says to the woman, I do not condemn you. Go and don't sin again. I do not condemn you. But look at who you are and what's going on in your life. And I rather think that's how Jesus looks at me and at you. There are things in my life that I wouldn't like to be brought out in front of a crowd. And I think there are many things in many people's lives that are like that. But Jesus looks at us with love and compassion and says, I do not condemn you. Go and do not sin again. Accept the healing, the peace, the restoration that I can give you. The other thing that this story reminds us of is our common humanity, our common condition. None of us are in the position, really, to cast the stone, because all of us are people who need the forgiveness, the healing, and the peace that comes from God. Today's gospel is about the way in which God looks at us. He looks at us with love, with pity, with compassion, not with blame or anger. He looks at us as children who have got things wrong, and he seeks to help us to get things right. And those are principles and ways of thinking and working in our relationships and our encounters that we would be enriched by accepting and following. May God bless us all today as we seek to live in his love and forgiveness and peace.